The royal wedding was sold to the world as a $32 million fairy tale, but raw footage and insider accounts have since exposed something far more disturbing beneath the surface. Long before the Oprah Winfrey interview or the Spotify fallout, the first cracks in Meghan Markle's carefully crafted bridal image were already visible. Meghan Markle is reportedly spiraling as a fresh wave of damaging revelations threatens to dismantle the foundation of her public persona. Leading the charge is veteran investigative biographer Tom Bower, a name that sends shudders through royal and elite circles. Bower isn't recycling old tabloid rumors. Instead, he's assembling a damning portrait backed by insider testimonies from disgruntled former palace staff and senior royals, including Sarah Ferguson. For years, Meghan has promoted the narrative of the reluctant royal, the innocent American actress who naively stepped into the monarchy only to be victimized by a rigid, racist institution. But as of March 2026, that mask hasn't simply slipped, it has been completely shattered. At the heart of her victim story was the emotional claim she made to Oprah Winfrey. "I didn't know much about the royal family. I didn't Google Harry." Bower's research, corroborated by sources within London's high society, tells the opposite story. According to the biographer, Meghan's Operation Royal began as early as 2013. Following the collapse of her marriage to Trevor Engelson, she didn't simply stumble upon a prince, she actively hunted one. Bower alleges that Meghan meticulously studied Prince Harry's vulnerabilities. She understood his deep grief over his mother's death, his passion for Africa, and his commitment to philanthropy. When she secured the blind date at a private Soho club in London, she wasn't merely an actress meeting a prince. She was playing a meticulously prepared role. She positioned herself as the perfect humanitarian soulmate, and Harry, a man longing for a mother figure and a partner in his personal rebellion, was captivated from their very first night. Friends, from her past and old social media activity, reveal a woman who had long been fascinated by British high society. Bower describes her displayed innocence as the performance of a lifetime, the greatest acting role of her career. The 2018 Royal Theatre wedding was presented as a symbol of modern unity and fairy tale romance. Behind the scenes, however, it was reportedly a battlefield of ego and control. One of the most striking details uncovered by Bower concerns Meghan's choice of vehicle. On May 19, 2018, she arrived at St. George's Chapel in a Rolls-Royce Phantom 4, one of the rarest cars in the royal fleet, with only 18 ever produced. More significantly, it was the favored car of Wallis Simpson, the American divorcee whose relationship with King Edward VIII triggered the abdication crisis and nearly brought down the monarchy. Palace insiders claim the royal household offered several more traditional and symbolically appropriate vehicles for both security and tradition. Meghan reportedly rejected them all, insisting on the Phantom 4. While some dismiss it as coincidence, Bower and multiple palace sources interpret it as a deliberate, provocative signal, a declaration that she was the new Wallis Simpson, an untamable disruptor. If the car choice was a subtle act of defiance, her treatment of the 500-year-old St. George's Chapel was an open insult. Multiple reports, including those cited by royal journalist Robert Jobson and detailed in Bower's findings, claim Meghan complained that the historic chapel smelled musty. She allegedly demanded that staff spray the entire building with Glade air fresheners or similar atomizers before the ceremony. When horrified palace staff refused to use chemicals in the consecrated historic monument, it triggered what insiders described as a furious outburst. Bower argues this wasn't mere perfectionism, it was authoritarian. Meghan reportedly viewed centuries-old British heritage as little more than a Hollywood film set that needed to be sanitized to meet her standards. This incident reportedly accelerated the departure of several aides who could no longer tolerate the unrelenting demands. Another striking and largely suppressed moment occurred during the procession. Meghan insisted on walking the first part of the aisle alone to project an image of a strong, independent woman who needed no father figure. Having already distanced herself from her own father, Thomas Markle, footage from the day allegedly shows her abruptly brushing aside a royal assistant who attempted to adjust her veil or guide her. She wanted the cameras focused solely on her. By the time she reached Prince Charles to walk the remainder of the E2 aisle, the narrative was complete. She had successfully used the future king as a prop. Meghan made her own solo entrance at the wedding. However, one of the most damaging blows to her credibility came from her claim during the Oprah interview that she and Harry had been secretly married by the Archbishop of Canterbury in their backyard 3 days before the official ceremony. The Archbishop was compelled to publicly clarify that the only legal wedding took place on Saturday, May 19th. Forced to backtrack, the Sussexes reframed the event as a private exchange of vows. Bauer suggests this easily disproven lie stemmed from Meghan's main character syndrome. She needed both herself and the public to believe that the lavish 32 million wedding was merely a spectacle imposed on her by the palace, while her real marriage remained intimate and authentic. In truth, she had actively demanded every element of the extravagant event, only to later criticize it publicly in order to win sympathy. A pivotal moment in Harry's transformation occurred during a 2017 shooting weekend at Sandringham. Eager to introduce his fiancée to his oldest friends, men he had known since his days at Eton and in the army, Harry instead witnessed a social disaster. According to Bauer's sources, Meghan didn't simply disagree with the group, she aggressively interrogated them. She reportedly challenged their jokes and views on sexism, feminism, and transgender issues with such intensity that the gathering was left stunned. Many of these friends, high-ranking aristocrats among them, departed convinced that Meghan was not the right match for Harry. They gave him honest feedback, describing her as trenchant, condescending, and lacking humor. Rather than heed their concerns, Harry, influenced by Meghan, began distancing himself from them. Several of these longtime brothers-in-arms were notably excluded from the exclusive post-wedding dinner. Meghan had successfully labeled them as toxic, effectively severing Harry's ties to his past. The world watched as Meghan's father, Thomas Markle, was cast as the villain of the 2018 wedding, while media attention centered on his staged paparazzi photos. Bauer reveals a deeper motive. Meghan was reportedly ashamed of her father's unpolished middle-class appearance and saw him as a threat to the sophisticated Hollywood royalty image she was crafting. In a striking disclosure, King Charles, then Prince of Wales, personally urged Meghan to fly to the United States, reconcile with her father, and end the public embarrassment. She refused, citing security concerns that palace staff dismissed as unfounded. Bauer argues this was a deliberate strategy. Without Thomas present, he couldn't spoil the aesthetic. Instead, her mother, Doria Ragland, who was more telegenic, was brought in just 48 hours before the ceremony to support the desired modern family narrative, while the rest of the Markle family was sidelined. One of the most lasting controversies involved the bridesmaid dress fitting. While Meghan told Oprah that Kate had made her cry, accounts from those actually present paint the opposite picture. Staff described Meghan's approach as overbearing. She clashed with Kate over the fit of Princess Charlotte's dress and resisted royal protocol requiring tights for formal occasions. Similarly, when told she could not have the emerald tiara she desired, Harry's outburst, "What Meghan wants, Meghan gets," reflected not just devotion, but the us-against-the-world mentality Meghan had cultivated. The tension was less about the dress or address and more about power. Meghan sought to position herself as the new authority, unwilling to defer to traditions Kate had spent years mastering. This dynamic reportedly left staff avoiding direct interaction with her to evade constant corrections. Bauer contends that Meghan's most damaging tactic was encouraging Harry to view her as a modern reincarnation of Princess Diana. By portraying herself as a persecuted victim of the British press, she tapped into Harry's profound trauma over his mother's death. Yet while Diana built her global status through decades of demanding public service, Meghan appeared to expect the same. Reverence from day one, without equivalent effort. Through symbolic choices like her wedding veil and curated storytelling, she reinforced this narrative. A move many in the royal family reportedly saw as disrespectful to Diana's true legacy. To the British public, the May 19, 2018, wedding was a joyful, multi-million-pound celebration blending diversity and tradition. A gift to the nation. To Meghan, however, it was a spectacle she claimed to have merely endured. Tom Bauer's analysis suggests that her dismissive tone in the Oprah interview, particularly toward an event of such cost and significance, detonated her relationship with the British people and created a lasting credibility gap. Meghan's most potent weapon in her campaign against the monarchy was the deliberate manipulation of financial facts. As tensions escalated, she began portraying the cost of her wedding as an unwanted burden thrust upon her, while simultaneously suggesting it was largely funded by taxpayers, an assertion designed to stoke public anger toward the royal family. The wedding carried a total price tag of roughly $32 million. However, nearly $30 million of that amount went toward security. Under Britain's constitutional arrangements, the royal family covered the church service, flowers, decorations, and receptions from their private funds. The state only covered security costs, as a royal wedding is considered a national occasion that generates billions in tourism revenue and cultural value. Tom Bauer argues that Meghan intentionally blurred these distinctions, claiming the public owned her because they had paid for her wedding and presenting herself as little more than state property. In reality, she enjoyed an extraordinary level of luxury and protection few people on Earth ever experience, all while quietly preparing her exit strategy. During her interview with Oprah Winfrey, Meghan gazed at the splendor of St. George's Chapel and casually dismissed it as a mere spectacle staged for the world. She claimed that she and Harry had wanted something intimate just for us, implying the grand public celebration was an empty, forced performance. The remark not only wounded the royal family, it also insulted the millions of Britons who had lined the streets of Windsor, purchased memorabilia, and joined in what they believed was a genuine moment of national unity. Bauer sees this as clear evidence of Meghan's true motivations. She was happy to accept the Givenchy dress, Queen Mary's bandeau tiara, and the global platform the wedding provided to launch her personal brand. Yet once the event was over and the bill settled, she reframed it as an unwanted chore. Social E. Media records and contemporary press reports from 2018 reveal a woman who was deeply involved in every detail of the occasion. Far from merely enduring it, she actively directed it. The wedding was her Hollywood debut, and once she had secured the footage she needed for future Netflix projects, she discarded its deeper significance. A central element of the ongoing feud is the Who Made Who Cry episode. Meghan's claim that Kate made her cry over the bridesmaids' dresses was a calculated attack on the future queen's reputation. According to staff members present at the time, as cited by Bauer, the incident was actually a clash of standards. Kate, an experienced royal, was concerned about young Charlotte's ill-fitting dress and a breach of protocol regarding tights. Meghan, described as condescending and dismissive, reportedly brushed off these concerns with an arrogance that left Kate visibly upset. By reversing the narrative in the Oprah interview, Meghan successfully cast Catherine as the bully, and herself as the vulnerable outsider. This falsehood was especially damaging because Meghan knew that Catherine, bound by the royal rule of never complain, never explain, could not publicly defend herself. Now, in March 2026, as Tom Bower continues to release chapters of his book systematically dismantling her carefully crafted image, Meghan is reportedly consumed by fury and paranoia. Her 2018 to 2021 narrative is being taken apart with forensic detail, with each claim from the Oprah interview being met by documented evidence from palace records or first-hand witnesses. What appears to frustrate her most is the calm silence emanating from London. King William and Queen Catherine have reportedly adopted a firm policy of complete detachment. No responses to leaks, no acknowledgement of her grievances, and no reaction to legal threats. Under the burden-sharing model among senior working royals, the monarchy is arguably more stable than it has been in decades. The Sussex saga is now regarded as a minor irritation rather than a constitutional threat. Harry and Meghan have been effectively recast as overseas celebrities, no longer central royal figures. The consequences of these exposed inconsistencies are now striking at the heart of what matters most to Meghan: her financial prospects and public status. Major brands and Hollywood studios are said to be increasingly reluctant to sign new deals with the Duchess. The Bower effect has turned her into a high-risk proposition. If her stories about the world's most famous family can be so thoroughly debunked by archbishops and official logs, how can businesses trust her to represent their brands? Just as she once isolated Harry, Meghan now finds herself increasingly isolated. Many of the A-list friends who attended her 2018 wedding and collaborated with her have quietly distanced themselves as public opinion shifts. In 2020, the world was told that Harry and Meghan were stepping back to become influential global players. They promised a Sussex empire of Netflix documentaries, Spotify podcasts, and best-selling memoirs. Yet by March 2026, that much-hyped sparkle had largely evaporated into a Montecito mist. Tom Bower's revelations portray a duchess who is no longer a power player in Hollywood, but a fading figure in the very industry she once sought to conquer. As the latest disclosures continue to undermine her past, Meghan's future in entertainment appears to be shifting from sought-after A-list producer to something far more precarious. The cornerstone of the Sussexes' much-vaunted financial independence was the landmark $100 million Netflix deal. Yet, according to industry insiders interviewed by Tom Bower, the reality behind the scenes was one of creative fatigue and disappointing results. While the Harry and Meghan documentary became a ratings success, it relied heavily on royal trauma, a currency that can only be spent once. Subsequent projects, such as the animated series Pearl, were quietly dropped by Netflix. Hollywood executives are famously unsentimental. Bower argues that Meghan's brand ultimately faltered because it was entirely reactive. Rather than creating original content, she focused on curating and protecting her personal image. Once the public tired of the victim narrative, the Duchess found she had little else to offer. The lingering shadow of the Spotify deal's collapse, where a senior executive reportedly called the couple fucking grifters, continues to damage her reputation. By 2026, Hollywood insiders view Meghan not as a compelling storyteller, but as a high-priced content vacuum who has struggled to deliver on her promises. One of Tom Bower's most provocative claims concerns Meghan's long-term strategy. He suggests her loyalty is transactional, based on utility rather than emotion. Bauer highlights a recurring pattern. She outgrew her first husband, Trevor Engelson, once her career accelerated. She distanced herself from her father when he became a liability, and she eventually walked away from royal duties when they limited her personal brand. Rumors circulating in early 2026 suggest Meghan has been quietly networking in elite circles of tech billionaires and venture capitalists. Bauer posits that she may be seeking a wealthier, better-connected partner, someone with deeper pockets and a more powerful global network than Harry. If Harry is no longer useful as a link to the monarchy, which has effectively closed the door on him, Bauer predicts Meghan will move on to her next empire, leaving the spare behind. As Bauer's explosive revelations gain traction, the atmosphere at Montecito is reportedly one of high alert and crisis management. Insiders describe a war room environment, with Meghan furious that her carefully constructed 2018-2021 narrative is being dismantled by former low-level staff. Obsessed with her digital image, she is aggressively attempting to scrub the internet of comparisons to Wallace Simpson and other damaging stories. However, the Bauer effect has proven too widespread to erase. Every rebuttal issued through sympathetic journalists only draws more attention to the very scandals she wishes to bury, trapping her in a self-reinforcing cycle that underscores her calculated approach. Meanwhile, the contrast with the British monarchy could not be sharper. Under King William and Queen Catherine, the institution has returned to a confident, service-oriented model. The couple are seen as glowing, popular, and highly effective, precisely the role Meghan reportedly once envisioned for herself. The Turs Palace has adopted a strategy of quiet irrelevance toward Meghan, recognizing that the most powerful response to her criticisms is simply to exclude her from the narrative. Harry, once the most beloved royal, is now viewed as a figure adrift in his wife's orbit. Stripped of institutional protection and his brother's support, he appears increasingly tragic, a man who sacrificed his identity for someone already scouting her next opportunity. The real consequence for Meghan in 2026 is not legal, but social. Many of the Hollywood A-listers who once filled the pews at St. George's Chapel, including the Clooneys, Oprah, and Serena Williams, have quietly distanced themselves, unwilling to become collateral damage. Her version of the truth has become a punchline. When even the Archbishop of Canterbury and Reuters are cited as footnotes exposing alleged inconsistencies, she loses the one essential asset any celebrity needs: credibility. As Bauer's investigation enters its most damaging phase, attention shifts from mere social climbing to far more serious territory. By March 2026, Bauer reportedly uncovered information linking the Duchess to controversial circles from the early 2000s. The claims go well beyond bridesmaid disputes. They involve overlapping social networks with Prince Andrew and, by extension, Jeffrey Epstein. Particularly damaging are reports that lawyers for Virginia Roberts-Giuffre allegedly considered calling Meghan as a potential witness in the civil case against Prince Andrew, because insiders believed she may have had knowledge of relevant events. Andrew possessed intimate knowledge of Prince Andrew's private life and associations, details that few others shared. Tom Bauer highlights a striking omission in Harry and Meghan's numerous media attacks. While they have publicly criticized nearly every senior royal, from Prince William to Camilla, they have remained conspicuously silent about Prince Andrew. Bauer interprets this as a tense Mexican standoff, a quid pro quo in which both sides refrain from speaking out because each knows too much about the other. The so-called Tiara Gate incident has often been dismissed as a classic Bridezilla moment. However, Bauer's reporting reveals it was actually the first major power struggle between Meghan and Queen Elizabeth II. Meghan reportedly demanded the emerald-encrusted Greville Emerald Kokoshnik tiara, When the Queen's dresser, Angela Kelly, explained that it was unavailable due to its uncertain provenance and rumored connections to the Russian Revolution, Meghan went on the offensive. Harry's fierce public defense of his wife was more than simple spousal loyalty. It represented a direct challenge to royal authority. According to Bauer, the late Queen pulled Harry aside and told him firmly, "Meghan cannot have whatever she wants. She gets the tiara she is given." This confrontation marked the moment Meghan realized she could not override the monarch, and, Bauer claims, the moment she began planning her long-term revenge against the institution. In 2021, the palace launched a formal bullying investigation into Meghan's treatment of staff. The findings were quietly suppressed at the time to protect privacy. Bauer says he has reviewed fragments and witness summaries from that inquiry. The accounts are troubling. Staff members reduced to tears, trembling with anxiety, and enduring early morning email barrages, along with belittling, condescending corrections. The most damaging element is the glaring hypocrisy. While Meghan filmed public segments promoting kindness and compassion, her own staff were allegedly suffering psychological distress behind the scenes. Bauer argues that this mask is what she fears losing most. As Meghan's difficulties have mounted, the palace has shifted from defense to quiet documentation. Under King William, officials have adopted a Cold War approach. They have reportedly compiled a comprehensive counter-dossier containing time-stamped emails, logs, and CCTV footage from 2018 to 2020. This file now hangs over Meghan like the sword of Damocles. Should she or Harry launch another major public attack, whether through a new memoir or explosive interview, the palace is prepared to release the full bullying report. Meghan is said to be terrified of this document, as it represents an unspinnable, factual record of her behavior that could permanently destroy her humanitarian brand. The $32 million wedding that was meant to be Meghan's glamorous launchpad has become an anchor around her neck. By framing the ceremony as a lavish spectacle, she has effectively written herself out of British public affection. While the royal family continues to generate billions for the UK, Meghan is widely viewed as a net liability. Public hostility toward her in Britain has reached such a level that she is now treated as persona non grata. With Hollywood deals drying up and the palace offering no royal lifeline, Meghan faces a serious financial squeeze. Bauer suggests that seeking billionaire backing is no longer optional. It has become essential for survival. Meghan Markle now finds herself trapped in a vice of her own creation. On one side, the shadow of her pre-royal past and its associations. On the other, the palace's detailed records of her conduct. Above her, the steady drumbeat of Bauer's revelations continues to fall. The calculating Duchess, who once believed she could outmaneuver the monarchy, is discovering that the House of Windsor plays the long game. As the sun sets over the Montecito estate in March 2026, a sobering reality has settled in. The Sussex Global brand is not merely damaged, it is decomposing. The relentless exposés have stripped away the Hollywood gloss, exposing a core of calculation and growing isolation. What began as a 32 million fairy tale wedding in 2018 has culminated in social and reputational bankruptcy. One of the most poignant elements in Bauer's account is the psychological portrait of Prince Harry. The author suggests Harry was never viewed by Meghan as a true partner, but rather as a passport to a new life. Now that the royal connection has been severed and the idealized Diana narrative has crumbled, Harry's usefulness appears to be reaching its end. In early 2026, reports from London indicated that Harry had made cautious overtures to King William. Having lost his military titles, his family ties, and much of his identity, he is increasingly seen as just another celebrity in a city that quickly moves on to the next sensation. William's response has remained cold. The palace has moved forward. The gap left by Harry has been filled by the working royals and the growing popularity of William and Catherine's children. Harry is no longer essential. He is an exile. Meghan Markle has spent far more time in San Francisco and Los Angeles than in Montecito. According to Tom Bower, she is actively seeking a titan of industry, someone capable of delivering the IBD, global power and influence that a former prince can no longer provide. Just as she distanced herself from Trevor Engelson and Thomas Markle, Bower predicts she is preparing a conscious uncoupling from Prince Harry. She will likely present it as personal growth, but Bower portrays it as calculated, predatory evolution. Friedrich, central question remains: who would be willing to take her on? With her well-documented bullying allegations and credibility issues, highlighted by the Archbishop and the media, Meghan's personal brand has become toxic. Even billionaires value discretion, yet Meghan has repeatedly proven herself to be the queen of leaks. Tom Bower's final assessment serves as a stark warning to the monarchy. By describing her wedding as a virtue drum, Meghan believed she was projecting authenticity. Instead, she revealed deep ingratitude. History, Bower argues, will remember the 2018 royal wedding not as a milestone of modernization, but as the greatest royal heist of the 21st century, a $32 million marketing campaign designed to launch a private brand. Her attempt to use the EBE Rolls-Royce Phantom to send a rebellious message has backfired spectacularly. Rather than being viewed as a bold rebel queen, she is increasingly seen as a Wallace Simpson figure, without the style. The unresolved bullying dossier continues to hang over her like the sword of Damocles, making any genuine return to public service nearly impossible. She remains the Duchess who made staff cry. And in today's era of accountability, that reputation is fatal for a humanitarian brand. While Meghan spirals and retreats into her California life, the British monarchy has found a new, steadier rhythm. The successful and dutiful presence of the King and Queen has rendered the Sussex drama largely irrelevant. They have demonstrated that quiet duty proves far more sustainable than celebrity. By refusing to engage with her attacks and legal threats, the palace has effectively won the long game. They didn't need to fight her. They simply needed to outlast her narrative. The institution has absorbed a painful but necessary lesson about vetting and protocol. The Meghan era is increasingly viewed as a fever dream from which the monarchy has finally awoken. As of March 31st, 2026, the numbers tell the story, with Hollywood deals drying up and the Montecito burn rate devouring her remaining capital, public. Perception has shifted from adoration to infamy. She has no access to the king, no influence within the palace, and no real standing in Washington. Between the Archbishop's public correction, Tom Bower's extensive research, and the palace's own documentation, the carefully crafted Meghan truth has been replaced by reality. She entered the royal family hoping to become the new Queen of Hearts, but instead behaved like a Hollywood director, treating one of the world's oldest institutions as little more than a stepping stone to a throne that ultimately rejected her. Today, she is a shadow duchess, throne hunting and hiding from the Bower apocalypse, while the man she pursued remains trapped in a gilded cage of his own making. The fairy tale is dead.
Please don't forget to
The
subscribe
spectacle
to our
is
The
over.
King YouTube channel to
As
get more
Tom
updates in the
Bower's
future.
final
Thank you so
pages
much for
close,
tuning in. Have a lovely
one
evening, and
undeniable
we'll be
truth
back to see you
emerges.
tomorrow. Bye.
No amount of
I
glade
love you
spray can
all.
permanently mask reality.